give the floor to members of the Security Council who want to take the floor. I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин президент.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the Council met to discuss the Syrian chemical weapons 10 days ago. And during that time, there have been no changes on the ground or at the level of OPCW. And this is also reconfirmed by the report by the Director General of OPCW covering in February. It confirms that. The fact that the report came out with a delay in March rather than in the last days of February as usual can only be interpreted as an attempt to provide us with a formal reason to meet today. And this is yet another confirmation of the fact that the current schedule we have to discuss chemical weapons in Syria in the Council, in particular its chemical weapons, is completely artificial. The delegations have nothing to discuss when the discussions are held this frequently, and we're simply repeating the same thing all over again. We have proposed on many an occasion that the schedule be amended so that the Council can work more effectively on this issue. Also, the same proposals were put forward by the delegation of China, but our proposals were not supported by our Western colleagues. We regret that for them, holding meetings for the sake of holding meetings is more important than having a substantive discussion in the Council. And this kind of an approach can but undermine the authority of this body of ours. Now, to illustrate the exaggerated attention that our Western colleagues are paying to Syria, I propose that we recall what is happening in other hotspots and is not being discussed in the Council this frequently. For example, let's take Libya. In Libya, on the 10th of February, the Chamber of Representatives confirmed Fathi Bashaghu as a new prime minister of the country, whilst at the same time there is an acting head of the Government of National Unity, Abdullah Beiba. The inauguration of the new prime minister took place. Prior to that, 2 new ministers had been kidnapped. And as recently as February, there was an attempt on Abdul Beiba's life. In these conditions, there is a growing risk of ending up with a factual dual government and deterioration situation in the country, which in turn can lead to a renewed armed confrontation. But the pen holders on Libya and the Security Council are pretending that nothing extraordinary is taking place. Despite such a kaleidoscope of worrying events, no one proposed that we amend the schedule that we have on Libya, which is once every 2 months. But on the other hand, every month, at least twice, we have to discuss Syria, and only because the number of such meetings is of importance for our Western colleagues. And we can see in this yet another egregious manifestation of double standards. Mr. President, now if we turn to the issue at hand, then I must say that our concerns as regards the OPCW on Syria are very well known. Let me repeat them briefly since we're meeting on this after all. And they include the politicized work conducted by the organization, the breaches by the Technical Secretariat of CWC methodology, the discovered facts of direct forgery conducted when the FFM report on Duma incident was being prepared, the work conducted by the illegitimate investigation and identification team, which churns out time and time again of biased conclusions about Damascus' culpability, ignoring the fact that chemical weapons is used by terrorists, and most importantly, the lack of a desire on the part of OPCW leadership to rectify this deplorable situation. We addressed this in great detail last time, less than 2 weeks ago, so I'm not going to dwell on this now. Let me simply repeat that we expect that the Director General of OPCW will find in the very near future time in his allegedly busy schedule to brief the Council and answer all of the questions that the Russian Federation put to him earlier. Otherwise, our suspicion that the Technical Secretary does have something to hide will only be strengthened. Thank you, Mr. President. There is nothing else for me to say today. I thank the representative of the Russian Federation.